Morning. First of all, I just want to say to the people in Southern California, we want you to know that we're thinking of you as you deal with these devastating fires that continue to tear through your region. When you see all these areas being evacuated, it's very clear that many families are going to be piecing back their lives throughout the holiday season. So just to echo what the majority leader said yesterday, we are here to help. To all those firefighters who are out there running into these fires, we're grateful for you. We're praying for you. Second, this morning, the Committee on House Administration is presently holding a wide-ranging hearing on our reporting and settlement process for sexual harassment. The goal of this hearing is to take a look at the entire system. We want to identify what reforms are needed to change the way things work. In addition to just better policies to protect women, we also need a real culture change. We need to recognize that this is a pervasive problem that women face not just here in Congress, but through every industry. And this really is a watershed moment, and it needs to lead to lasting and positive change. Lastly, with the Senate's vote yesterday, it is official. We are going to a conference committee on tax reform. With this last long step, this step-by-step process that began with dozens of hearings over the course of several years, we are now on our way to getting real relief. I know people are hearing a lot of hysteria and a lot of hyperbole from opponents of this plan. All kinds of doom and gloom. None of this surprises me. The defenders of the status quo just see their old, broken system slipping away from them. We believe it's about time that hardworking people of this country get a break. We believe it's about time that people living a paycheck get some real relief. In the end, this really comes down to what people care about. More money in their paychecks, more jobs, a healthier economy, faster economic growth, more fairness, more peace of mind when tax day rolls around. That's what this is about, and it's about getting beyond the status quo. So for the people who are out there who want to just cut through all the noise, the hysteria, the hyperbole, just go to fairandsimple.gop, see for yourself what this is all about, what it is we're trying to do to improve the lives of millions and millions of hardworking Americans. Thank you. And anybody got any questions? Wong.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Leader Pelosi just a few minutes ago said Democrats will not be supporting FDR providing Democratic votes. Do you have enough Republican votes to avert a shutdown?
I feel good where we are. I'll let the whip comment on whip checks and things like that. I feel good where we are. I think it's kind of just basic governing is keeping government going while we negotiate the finer details. Who are you from?
Alex Roth with Bloomberg BNA. I want to follow up to ask, in light of the promises the President and Mitch McConnell made to Susan Collins, do you think the Alexander Murray bill and the reinsurance legislation itself, do you think those should pass?
I won't get into the conversations they've had because I wasn't part of those conversations. I'm not deeply familiar with those conversations. Only to say that healthcare is broken. We're going to have to fix healthcare. She's put some very productive, constructive solutions on the table. Our members are looking at the same kinds of solutions. And we think the individual mandate, which is something that the Senate did repeal, should be repealed. And then in doing that, that's going to invite a new conversation about how we fix healthcare. And I think that's all productive. Christina. Yes, it is. The appropriators literally could not write one. If we try to tell the appropriators on the 7th, write an omnibus, it would be written by the staff. Members of Congress would not have a hand in writing this. And so it's too much to ask for the appropriators at this short game. Look, I was hoping we'd get this agreement done a while ago. As you know, the Democrat leaders walked away from the table. And when they walked away from the table, that cost us weeks. And in order to write an omnibus appropriation, that takes weeks to do, and you want to do it right, and you want to do it thoroughly. And that means we have to give the Appropriations Committee enough time to do that, and right now, they don't have that kind of time. Well, I'm not going to speculate on what the next moves are. We're going to start, hopefully, we're going to start this conversation back up today down at the White House. It would be nice to get back to the table and start negotiating caps and all the other things we have to do. But those conversations have not been taking place because our partners on the other side of the aisle walked away from the table. So if they come back to the table, we can start conversations, but it's going to take us some time, and we're just going to have to find time to make sure that we can accommodate all of these things. Yeah.
On that meeting, Leader Pelosi said that the President made the invitation for today's meeting and said, I assume since he invited us, he has an offer to make. Is there a counteroffer from Republicans, and has the Freedom Caucus support been secured in that?
we don't have. Are you talking about what? Are you talking about appropriations? Are you talking about? We want to just start these conversations back up. We haven't had conversations about how to move with a caps agreement. So we just want to get these conversations started back up. In the meantime, we just need to keep the government funded while we try to get these conversations going again.
But you met with Congressman Mark Meadows yesterday.
I meet with people constantly about everything. Just leave it at that.
Will you vote for a 2 ECR? Will that group vote for 2 ECR?
You'll ask the whip.
But Mr. Speaker, would you be open to the idea of a 22% corporate rate in order?
Oh, I'm not gonna. You think I'm gonna get into speculating what's in the conference committee and stuff? The last thing I'm gonna do is get ahead of our conferees who just got named, who are just beginning to get their ducks in a row. What I'm not going to do is start speculating about what is or isn't or what I want or don't want in the conference report when the conferees, I think in the Senate, just got named last night. So it would be poor form of me to negotiate through the media on tax reform, but more importantly, to get ahead of the people that we've just delegated to go negotiate the final version of tax reform. Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, on parity, Minority Leader Pelosi said that 54-37 is what.
I'm not going to negotiate to the media on this either.
But my question is, she seems to think that fiscal 2017 did not change the parity argument. So how are you going to move forward with the side that believes that?
I'm going to move forward by not negotiating through the media.
Mr. Speaker, your conversations with Republicans, from what we've been told, have revolved around a year-end bill by December 22nd.
Yeah.
Would fully fund defense and then through the end of the fiscal year, and then CR the remaining agencies into January to set up an omnibus. Is this something a strategy you're supporting at this time?
Yeah, what my leadership style, and I think you probably know this by now, is I try to open up the playbook to our members so we have a very open and candid conversation about how the best ways to proceed. You got to understand, in the House, we're very frustrated. You know why we're frustrated? We passed all our appropriation bills. We passed every appropriation bill here in the House before the September 30th deadline. The Senate didn't even bring up a single appropriation bill. So we're fairly frustrated in the House because we've done our work, we've done our job, and yes, the Senate has different rules and they have different procedures. Nevertheless, we're frustrated because we've done the work, we've passed the bills. So what we're doing with our members is having a conversation about how to advance our priorities, how to make sure that we can get the big things done that we're working on this year, like tax reform, while also minding our equities on the things that we care about, like funding the military. And then how do we do that so we can get these conversations back on the table, get back to being constructive and productive, working with people across the aisle, so that we can actually get funding for long term next year for all of these things. And that's the kind of conversation we're having. We're basically trying to figure out, how do we make government work? How do we make good on our priorities? And how do we get through these moments we have where you have just friction between not just the House and the Senate, Republicans and Democrats, but just between the two sides of the rotunda.
Do you think that, are you supportive of that concept of a defense?
Look, I like to keep our conversations within our family, within the family. My job is more to listen to our members and see kind of what their priorities are, and then trying to make sure we can come up with a strategy that we think works to make sure that we can get our work done here. Yeah. Who are you with?
Joe Cardigan with Business Insider. Where's the bar set for calling for resignations for these members of Congress? Democrats are kind of booting a lot of
Yeah.
members left and right. You got Congressman Farenthold. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah. No, it's a really good question, actually. So, for instance, well, first of all, every one of these claims that is against, whether it's in business, industry, or in Congress, they have to be taken very seriously. In that particular case, that claim was taken very seriously, and then it was referred to an independent ethics body, the OCE. That independent ethics body reviewed the claims, and then they unanimously voted to dismiss those claims. So in that particular case, that did go through an ethics investigation. There's another one pending at the ethics committee. So we've got to figure out, how do we make sure all of these claims are respected and honored, that there is a system of due process, and that there are standards that are being met. That is why we have these hearings right now in the House Administrative. I've learned so much about this. You know, your first reaction is just full, total transparency. And then what I've learned is, well, victims don't necessarily want that. So you've got to be careful that you protect victims and their needs and their concerns as well. This is why we need to be painstaking in making sure that we get this right, that we get it fair. This really is a watershed moment for our country. And what I really hope that we get out of this is real, positive, lasting change. That not just fixes the laws and the procedures, but changes the culture so we don't have harassment. I want my daughter to grow up in a country going into the workplace where she's empowered and respected and not fearful for reporting harassment when it occurs against her. So we've got to get this right, and that is why I think it's important for us to have standards and procedures in place, and that's why we're having this perfectly thorough review so that we can get this done. Who hasn't yet? Yeah.
Last month you called on Roy Moore to drop out of the race in Alabama. Given that he hasn't, are you comfortable leaving that decision up to the Alabama?
No, my position hasn't changed. I have not changed. I think he should have dropped out. I think he should. Just because the polling has changed doesn't change my opinion on the matter. So I stand by what I said before. All right. Thanks, everybody.